Well, everyone, thank you very much for showing up to the OpenE webinar. Today is August 9th, 2011. My name is Tom Maxwell. I'm part of the Director of Technical Sales, and along with me is Chris Wilson, who is part of the OpenE sales team. Today's webinar is going to be storage solutions with multipathing fiber channel targets with VMware. So one of the things we're going to get into is we're going to configure the fiber channel post-bus adapter, which we'll be using as a target mode with the Qlogic 8 gigabit fiber channel. We're going to be creating the fiber channel volume, which will demonstrate that. And we're going to set up the alias and the worldwide node name for the fiber channel HBA. Assigning soon, right after that, we're going to assign the fiber channel group so that way we can assign the aliases to these groups that we can create. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then what we'll do is we're going to be verifying the fiber channel connection with VMware. So at this point in time, once we have that set up, then we'll proceed to set up in the multipath right at that point for the VMware. All right, thank you. What we're going to do is go right into setting up the DSS system. And I want to show you right now that we're working with the latest version of 5377. New releases to be scheduled out next week. Now currently right now what we want to do is we want to verify our fiber channel HBAs that we're using, which is the Qlogic, because you need a Qlogic to your target mode. It's very important. A lot of questions we do, customers ask, well, can we use LSI or Emulux? And the question is no, currently only the Qlogic can do target mode. If you do have, let's say, an LSI HBA, then you can use it as initiator mode. But here we're showing you right now that I have the 8 gigabit fiber channel HBA connected here. So this is the 2562 version that we're using. Now if you notice, I have also set them and the other ones I put into initiator mode. Can I split them up? Of course you can. If you look here, we have an 8 gigabit QLE 2562, which is a dual port fiber channel HBA. And I can actually split one for initiator and one for target mode. So I just want to let you know that you can do this. You can add also additional fiber channel HBAs and assign them for initiator or target. But once I've assigned mine to be a target, you want to hit apply. And once you've done this, now we'll go ahead and get ready to put together our fiber channel volume. What we want to do is go to configuration, Volume Manager, and then click on Volume Groups. And here's our Unit Manager area that we've already configured a unit to be used for our volume. Over on the left, you'll see where it has designated the unit to relationship to its volume group. Here we have VG00 and also VG01. So we can click on VG00, and at this point, I've already created a fiber channel volume. If you see, it is noted as LV000. And it's also the type, as you put your mouse over it, it also shows up in a pop-up window that it is a fiber channel volume. And of course, you see I put this at 512K block size and also the size of the volume. Now, if I wanted to create a new fiber channel volume, or for many of you, what you want to do is you want to scroll down from the Logical Volume Manager, and you see this Action pull-down menu. And here's where you create many of the NAS, iSCSI, and fiber channel volumes, and snapshots as well. Now, you can also modify them as well, so I can also increase the size of an existing logical volume. Now for this purpose, we're just going to create for a new volume, which is going to be the fiber channel volume. And for VMware, I'm going to select the block size to be 512. For Microsoft environments, these are like the 4096 for 4K version. So you want to be able to, on VMware likes 512. Now you notice you can replicate the volumes. Pretty much you can replicate all the volumes at the block level, which is using our volume replication, which is a feature of our DSSP6 that's on the left. Now, you'll notice that there's an initialization. Now, the initialization is also can be done with also iSCSI volumes as well as fiber channel. But what I want to make a point here is that when you select the initialization, keep in mind that this is writing with all zeros. So if you remember in the old DOS days, it was like doing a low-level format. Well, this is similar, and it does use some resources. So if you have a system in production, you might want to select the slow rate. Now, this way, you will not impede on some performance needs, especially during business operations. So I highly recommend if that after hours, then select the fast rate, because this is going to take time. Currently, for this session, I'm not going to be doing the initialization because it does take some time, but we'll go ahead and just create a 50 gig fiber channel volume. Once we do that, we want to click on the Apply button. And here again, we bring up the note about you should have the initialization option checked when creating a fiber channel volume. You know, in many ways, I recommend that if you have, let's say, a brand new volume group, and whatever size, up to be 30 terabyte or 60 terabyte, I do recommend, and many of the engineers as well, is that we want you to probably write that whole volume or initialize the whole volume with all zeros. And then once that's complete, then go ahead and delete it. This provides more data security. Yes, it will take time. But if you have something that you want to use in production, we highly recommend this. And probably a good idea would be to use, let's say, Friday and let it initialize over the weekend. Then when it's done, you'll have the red X, and then you'll be able to remove it. Then you can go ahead and create all your volumes. All right, now we have our fiber channel volumes here. We have 2 of them. And let's go right into the configuration fiber channel target manager, and here we'll see the groups. Now the difference between when we creating a new group is basically called a private group, in essence. The other one is called the default, which would be a public group. Everybody would be able to see it. So if you're on a fiber channel switch, everybody would see these volumes. And you notice you don't have the ability to do a default with using the default group, which is like a public group. That you cannot use the www alias access or worldwide no-name access. Only on the private groups. So for this purpose, for MPIO, we're going to need to set it for what I want to show is to create a the private group that we're going to create. Because currently the default is the public group. So here's where we create a new group, and we're going to enter VMware. And we're going to hit apply. And then all of a sudden you're going to see on the left side, you'll see the VMware private group that we just created. All right. Now, once we create our private group, in the beginning you probably won't have your alias set up. So what I'm going to do is go over here to alias. And let's say you wanted to create a new alias. So if you had multiple HBAs, or if you had dual ports on an HBA from, let's say, what I'm showing on the VMware side, and we're going to go into that, you want to enter it here. So if you look, what we're looking for, if you click on that question mark on the right side, by the way, all the features in DSSV6 have the question mark, which is basically called the online manual. So the worldwide name for the alias that we want to create, we want to be able to collect the information in the back of the card. It could be in the BIOS, or it could also be displayed from, let's say, VMware we're going to show. But it'll have this type of naming convention right here. So let's go ahead and find this on VMware server. I have my VMware server here. Let's bring him up. And here in my configuration in VMware, I'm going right into the storage adapters. And in storage adapters, I want to be able to see what's noted as my Qlogic fiber channel HBA 2532. And here it shows it's the 8 gigabit fiber channel. And here's where you collect your information on the worldwide name. So what we're going to show you is when you collect that information, you want to make sure that you match it up properly. So which number should you use? If you notice here, you've got several numbers. And the first one denotes a 20 and then a 21. Also for the second port. So here's the denoting for port really on the back of the HBA Qlogic. They show it as port 1 and port 2. And here it's noted 0 and 1. So port 1 would be 00 and port 2 would be 01. That would be on the back of the host bus adapter. If we look at the port 1 that I've created here, so this would be the information from the VMware server, from the initiator side. So we're looking at, instead of 20, notice how we're using 21. So I matched it and I named it under 8 gigabit port 1. Now let's go back and take a look. So here you see off to the side port 21, and we have port where port 1 is to 21 here on this side on the right, second set of numbers. So what we want to do is we want to be able to copy that information and then be able to enter that for our alias in DSSV6. So I took that information and I created it, and I entered that into creating a new one. So you would be able to have port 1, whatever you want to use, and of course you could use the proper worldwide name, and you want to enter that here for the fiber channel HBA. That's from the host side, from the initiator side, or in this case from VMware side. Once that's done, you'll see that it is you can have many ports assigned here because these are the hosts. You can remove them, but for these are my dual ports on the VMware server. So I got port 1 and port 2. So now we've got our private group, which we call VMware. And here are my volumes that we've created. So we have 100 gig and a 50 gig. Now by default, it's set to write back. And I don't really want to use write through right now. There's really no reason to, because I want the best performance as possible. So we enable this by default. So normally you would just go ahead and select the plus sign. In many cases, why would there be the read-only state? Well, there may be a reason why you're not really wanting to write to that volume at that particular point in time, that you only need to read from it. And you may schedule some certain writes for it. So that's why we have the read-only function in there. And we'll go ahead and turn on logical volume 002, so from the action bar. Now once we've done that, even though we need to, at this point, we have to bring over the worldwide name alias access from the fiber channel HBAs to allow the VMware server to connect to this target. So I'm going to select both of them on both ports. Actually, you know what? Let's just do this so everybody can see. If we select the first one and hit apply, and let's go to our VMware server and do a port scan. And we've selected port 1. So let's rescan on port 1. And there you see the 100 gig volume that we created and the 50 gig. So your next question will, can we actually add another alias to an existing fiber channel target private group? Yes, you can. If you notice here, I'm doing a rescan, and it comes up empty. So let's go back down to DSSV6, and we can add the other port. So you can do this right on the fly. And this way you can verify if you're troubleshooting to make sure that you're still connected. And by the way, I'm not using a switch. I'm directly connected to the VMware server. So we're using really a point-to-point. So we go back to the VMware server, and let's scan port 2. And port 2 now sees the fiber channel volumes. Now at this point, we're ready to go ahead and configure the MPIO multipath. What we want to do is right-click on Manage Paths from the device on the bottom. And you want to make sure that these are the ports. You want to make sure that they state they are round robin, and go to the next port and state that is round robin, and hit apply or make the change button. This now will tell me, it confirms that I'm now using MPIO with VMware. So anytime a path has been disabled, and we'll demonstrate this, then packets and data still will be transferred over that fiber channel link to the target. So this tells me now that both MPIO is now enabled. If what normally you would see either on port 1, or if in this case, this name would be port 1 and this one would be port 2. If we were to change port 2, normally you would see it such as that. In this case, if you see this condition, make sure that the active one on port 1, which is denotes here 2000, here 2001, what you want to do is you want to make sure, let's take both of them off so you get a full perspective of it. And let's just say this, let's use just VMware Fix. Okay. So if you were to see this condition here, or in default, if you would see just both of them saying active, active, what you want to see is active IO. So if you take the first one, which is port 1, off the fiber channel HBA from the Qlogic, set it for round robin, and state change. Make sure this states on the port 2 round robin and state change. So that way they both state active, active. Once you're complete with this, then you're ready to go ahead and go right into the VMware storage area under the configuration tab. And here you'll see that we're playing around earlier to add the VMDK and part of the storage for the fiber channel for its device. So you can see that this is what we're connected with that 100 gig. Now if we want to add storage for the 50 gig, we just want to click on add. Then you'll see select the storage type, which will be this one. And here's the 50 gig that we've added. So we'll just go ahead and add this for just for reference for others. And there we see the new fiber channel volume that we've added. Now, if we wanted to create a virtual machine while we're running MPO, let's demonstrate why we're installing DSSV6 and be able to simulate removing one of the ports from the fiber channel MPIO. This is showing that if you were to lose connectivity on any one of the ports or from the fiber channel HBA, that the data can still be transferred. So we're going to create a new virtual machine. We'll just do typical, and we'll do a test on a DSS system. And we'll use the 50 gig that we've created. We'll select Linux, and we'll select the Debian. Let's go 64-bit mode. We only need 2 gig for DSS. We'll edit the virtual machine because what we want to do is when we boot it up, we want it to be able to grab the ISO image from DSSV6 on the latest version, so that way we can install it. So let's go ahead and continue. I'm going to add a gig of memory. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we got over a gig. And then on the new CD, what we want to do is point to, because I created an NFS NAS volume, we're using NFS file protocol, and I put an ISO image on there. And you'll see that just right here, I've noted as NFS, and there is the DSS version that we're going to use. And I want to make sure that it's connect at power on. So I want to power this device on, simulating a CD-ROM and basically passing over that information to boot up and simulate the CD-ROM to install DSSV6. Okay, so let's go ahead and fire on our virtual machine. Actually, that's the wrong one. That's an existing one. There we go. This is the new one we created. And let's go ahead and push the play button. and we're going to select the Run Software Installer. Now while that's loading, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go back to DSS, and we're going to disable port 2 from this private group. So we're going to remove the worldwide name alias, hit apply. Now let's go back to our VMware server. And you can see that we're still going to be loading. It's still installing DSS v6. So you can see the percent loading. And let's do a scan. If we go back to the ESX server and change from the configuration tab, we want to go under storage adapters. And let's scroll down to the fiber channel HBA. Now we disabled the secondary port. So you should be able to do a rescan, and it should not be showing us any information, which, as you see, it does not. So I just did a rescan. It's offline, but yet we're still installing DSS v6, which means that if you're running your application, your operating system, your virtual machines, that MPIO can be very valuable, especially in fiber channel, as you see. Now let's go back, and again, we're still moving right along. So we'll go ahead and select these and install the DSS v6 on this fiber channel storage that we've created, and let that run. And at the same time, we're going to bring the DSS v6 back online. We're going to add the fiber channel port 2 back on to the private group. And we're going to switch over back to the VMware server. And you can see that the installation was successful. We're going to shut it down because I want to edit the changes in the virtual machine. Why? Because I want to take off the CD-ROM so that way I'm not reinstalling DSS v6. So if I look here, we want to take the CD-ROM off and hit apply, or OK in that instance. Okay, it means it's basically that the virtual machine is still running, so it's still trying to shut down. But what we're going to find out if we come over here under the configuration of the storage adapters, let me do a rescan, and there comes back the storage. So we can also switch this back and forth and do this all day long. As you see, what we're going to do is we shut down the system. Let's go ahead and edit the settings for the CD-ROM. Let's take the power off. Okay, let's give it a second or two. And while that's working, we'll go ahead and bring up the DSS v6. We have both ports on. Okay, let's say it's giving the virtual machine is having a problem. Data store use does not exist, so you must specify. So we don't want to use that. And we want to be able to take this off. Let's give this a break here. Let's try to start this up again. And cancel. And let's go back to the VMware, and we want to go to storage adapters again and do a rescan. As you see, where both of them are now visible. So this is where I want to show you the MPIO, how it's working, and be able to demonstrate that once you configure it, that if you lose any link connection between either ports or HBAs, it's configured in the MPIO, and as long as the paths are managed, that your connectivity and data will still be running. There's a lot of information based on and we're going to do some more on fiber channel MPIL. I think it's important that everybody sees that you're able to do this connectivity and be able to go back and switch, and you can test for your own verification when you take these ports off. Now, you can, if you obviously take all of them off, well, then you're not going to be able to see any of your targets. So if we do a rescan here, they're gone. And we do a rescan on the second port, we'll see that they're gone as well. And what we do is rescan one more time on the second port. So it's still in progress on the bottom. There's some hanging. VMware has some connectivity. We probably made that second port a little bit more active. So we'll give that a second and let that run, and it'll flush out as well. So pretty soon you'll see both of them in that state where there's no available fiber channel targets available unless you assign it. So what we'll do is we'll put that back on for both of them. And do a rescan. And there you go. So it shows your fiber channel volumes are back online, and also for the port 2.